Okay, I thought I'd do a quick video dedicated to the big end of the connecting rod and the bearing and the pin that's associated with it. There are no other bearings in your engine that take more abuse than the two connecting rod bearings, both the big and the small. And while it's pretty easy to replace the small end bearing, it's not so easy to replace the big end bearing. And I kind of wanted to outline some of the damage that's done and types of some subtle damage and not so subtle damage that can occur and lurk down inside of that big end of the connecting rod. Now, it's true that big end bearings or any connecting rod bearing are specifically designed to handle the extreme forces and temperatures inside the crankcase. And to that end, they have a particular design to them. The shape of them are different than normal needle roller bearings, but also the coatings tend to be different too. And in the normal life cycle of the bearing, typically what happens is these rollers are held in place by this steel cage, and over the normal life cycle, assuming no foreign material gets down in there and mucks things up, the steel cage actually disintegrates over time. And so what they do is they coat these things with either copper, or this one has a silver coating on it. This one here is an original style Puch big end bearing that has some sort of a black coating on it. I don't really know the specifics behind it. And this one here I think came out of a Peugeot setup and has some sort of a gray coating on it. But the coatings are just designed to make the steel cage itself last a little bit longer. But over time, the cage will disintegrate, and the bearings or the rollers will come free and cause some sort of a seizure or other catastrophic failure inside of the big end. So, but that's not the only surface that you have to worry about disintegrating. The other surfaces too, you can have problems occur inside of the hardened board here inside of the big end itself. And then you have damage that can happen on the crank pin too. And I just wanted to kind of outline some of the again, subtle and not so subtle sorts of damage that can occur to those things. And this was out of a Puch E50 crankshaft that I split apart for a basic reconditioning. And if I can zoom the camera in or get the crank pin itself located far enough away that you can actually see when I rotate this, right in the center where the discoloration happens, you start to see some black dots showing up. And those little black dots right there in the center are some sort of pitting or gouging that has occurred for an unknown reason to me anyway, why it has happened. But that little pitting or gouging that occurs in there, it looks like there's a couple of micro cracks in there too, but that induces extra vibration on the rollers, and over time we'll have a shortening effect of the life of the big end bearing. This other pin here doesn't have any pitting or gouging, but it has a lot of little micro cracks, and this one you really cannot tell at all with this camera, but they do exist. And again, they're lateral cracks that go right across the bearing surface, or the bearings make contact with here, the surface of the pin. And again, same problem. It's going to introduce extra vibrations into the bearing as it rolls over the surface and shorten the life of the steel cage, the integrity of the steel cage. And then this last one here looks like a catastrophic failure, and it sure is. And if you can see here, it looks like there's a blister right there across the center. And if I turn it this way, you can see kind of there's a burr that's sticking up there. So that's obviously not good. And this bearing actually disintegrated. In fact, when I press this crankshaft apart, this is all that remains of the bearing. Just this little piece right here, and that was it. There was nothing else. The rest of it just completely disintegrated, and oddly enough, the crankshaft, or the connecting rod rather, was not seized. It continued to spin around. I guess I didn't see the engine run, but I imagine it probably ran like crap. at any rate, I just kind of wanted to outline some of the damage that can, sort of remain unseen that can exist there, and particularly if you have a type of crankshaft that there is not a good replacement for, you might give some consideration to doing a basic reconditioning. Anyway, that's all I have, and thanks for watching.